The moment Olivia Lane told herself she would quit was the same moment Theodore Everett walked into the nonprofit's cramped office carrying 24 boxes of donated winter coats, his tailored suit somehow untouched by the November rain that had soaked everyone else that morning. She had been working at Harbor Hope Community Center for 3 years, pouring every ounce of herself into helping struggling families find resources, and today had been particularly brutal. The funding they desperately needed had fallen through, her car had broken down again, and her landlord had just raised her rent by an amount she couldn't afford. Standing there with a stack of rejection letters in her hand, watching rainwater drip from the ceiling into a bucket, she felt like the universe was telling her to give up. Then he appeared, this tall man with dark hair and sharp features, looking completely out of place among the peeling paint and worn furniture. His eyes were a striking gray, and when they landed on her, something shifted in the air. "I'm looking for the director," he said, his voice deep and confident. "That's Margaret. She's in a meeting." Olivia set down the papers, wiping her tired eyes. "Can I help you?" "I hope so." He set the boxes down with surprising care for someone who clearly had people to do this sort of thing for him. "Theodore Everett. I own Everett Industries. We manufacture outdoor gear and clothing, and I wanted to donate our excess inventory to organizations that actually need it." Olivia's exhaustion momentarily lifted. "That's incredibly generous. It's practical." But the way his mouth curved suggested there was more to it than that. "I did some research on community centers in the city. Yours came up repeatedly as one that actually makes a difference." She felt heat rise to her cheeks under his gaze. "We try. It's not always enough, but we try." For the next 20 minutes, Theodore helped her sort through the donations while they talked. He asked intelligent questions about their programs, really listened to her answers, and somehow made her laugh despite the terrible day she had been having. When Margaret finally emerged from her meeting and nearly fell over herself thanking him, Theodore's attention remained fixed on Olivia. "Would you have dinner with me?" he asked as he was leaving, catching her completely off guard. What? Dinner tomorrow night? I'd like to get to know you better." Olivia's mind raced. Men like him did not ask women like her to dinner. "Mr. Everett, I don't think." "Theodore, please." His expression was earnest in a way that seemed almost vulnerable. "Just dinner. No pressure." She heard herself say yes before her brain could list all the reasons this was a terrible idea. The restaurant he took her to the next evening made Olivia grateful she had splurged on a dress she couldn't afford years ago and saved it for special occasions. The maitre d' greeted Theodore by name, leading them to a private corner table with a view of the city lights. "I'm underdressed, aren't I?" Olivia whispered, suddenly aware of how much everything probably cost here. "You're perfect," Theodore said simply, pulling out her chair. "And I promise the food is actually good, not just expensive." He was right. The meal was incredible, but what surprised Olivia more was how easy it was to talk to him. Theodore told her about building his company from a small startup 10 years ago, about the risks he had taken and the failures he had learned from. He spoke about his parents, immigrants who had worked multiple jobs to give him opportunities, and how their work ethic drove everything he did. "What about you?" he asked, leaning forward with genuine interest. "How did you end up at Harbor Hope?" Olivia wrapped her hands around her wine glass. "I grew up in foster care, bounced around a lot. There was this one social worker, though, who refused to give up on me. She helped me get scholarships, made sure I had what I needed. I went to college, got my degree in social work, and I wanted to be that person for someone else." Something in Theodore's expression softened. "That's remarkable. It's just doing the right thing." "No," he said firmly. "It's choosing to turn pain into purpose. That takes real strength." The conversation flowed through dinner and into dessert, then continued as they walked through the city streets despite the cold. Theodore draped his coat over her shoulders without asking, and Olivia found herself not wanting the night to end. "Can I see you again?" Theodore asked when they reached her building, a modest apartment complex that looked even shabbier next to his sleek black car. Why? The question escaped before she could stop it. Theodore, you're a CEO, you could date anyone, I'm asking you. But why me? He stepped closer, and she could see the intensity in his eyes. Because when you talk about your work, you light up in a way that makes me remember why I started my company in the first place. Because you're genuine in a world where everyone I meet wants something from me. Because I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since yesterday. Olivia's heart hammered in her chest. I'll see you again. Over the next month, they fell into a pattern. Theodore would show up at the community center with coffee during her lunch break, and they would sit in the small courtyard talking about everything and nothing. He took her to art galleries and small jazz clubs, places that felt intimate rather than showy. She introduced him to her favorite cheap restaurants, and he declared her favorite taco truck the best food he had ever eaten. But as they grew closer, a knot of anxiety tightened in Olivia's chest. Theodore's world was so different from hers. She saw it every time his phone rang with business calls worth millions, every time someone recognized him and fawned over him, every time she compared her threadbare life to his obvious wealth. The breaking point came on a Friday evening. Theodore had invited her to a charity gala his company was sponsoring, and Olivia had scraped together enough money for a nicer dress. The moment she walked into the glittering ballroom, she felt like an imposter. Everyone there radiated money and confidence, speaking a language of investments and vacation homes and business deals she couldn't follow. Theodore introduced her to people with titles like venture capitalist and board member. And while he stayed close to her side, his hand warm on her lower back, Olivia felt herself shrinking. A woman in a dress that probably cost more than Olivia's yearly salary looked her up and down with barely concealed disdain. "And what do you do?" the woman asked, her tone making it clear she expected nothing impressive. "I'm a social worker at a community center," Olivia said, lifting her chin. "Oh, how noble." The word dripped with condescension. Theodore's hand tightened on her waist, but before he could speak, Olivia excused herself. She found her way to the balcony, gulping in cold air, trying to calm the panic rising in her throat. She didn't belong here. She didn't belong with him, hey. Theodore's voice was soft as he joined her outside. "What's wrong? This." She gestured at the ballroom behind them. "All of this. Look at me, Theodore, really look at me. I'm wearing a dress I bought at a thrift store. I took the bus here because my car is broken. I live paycheck to paycheck, and half the time I'm not sure how I'm going to make rent. These people, your people, they look at me like I'm dirt on their expensive shoes. I don't care what they think. But I do," the words burst out of her. "Because they're right. We're from different worlds. You deserve someone who can stand beside you at these things, someone who understands your life, someone better. Better than you." Theodore's voice was sharp now, almost angry. "Olivia, you're the most genuine person I've ever met. You dedicate your life to helping others. You find joy in simple things. You make me want to be a better man. How is that not enough?" Tears pricked her eyes. "You're too good for me," she whispered. "Eventually, you'll realize that," and Theodore pulled her close before she could finish, his arms strong and sure around her. She felt the solid warmth of him, the steady beat of his heart. "Let me prove you wrong," he said against her hair, his voice rough with emotion. "Give me the chance to show you that you're everything I want, that you're more than enough. Please, Olivia." She pulled back to look at him, seeing raw honesty in his face. "Theodore, I'm falling in love with you," he said, the words simple and devastating. "I think I started that first day when you were so tired and overwhelmed, but still took the time to sort through those donations with me. When you laughed, despite everything weighing on you. I've spent years building a company, making money, achieving what everyone calls success, and none of it has made me feel the way I feel when I'm with you." Olivia's breath caught. "I'm scared. So am I." He cupped her face gently. "But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you." She kissed him then, pouring all her fear and hope into it. His arms tightened around her, and for the first time that evening, Olivia felt like she was exactly where she belonged. They left the gala early, driving to Theodore's penthouse apartment. Olivia had never been there before, and it was as stunning as she had imagined, all floor-to-ceiling windows and modern furniture. But Theodore led her past all of it to the balcony, where the city spread out below them like a blanket of lights. "I bought this place because of this view," he said, standing behind her with his arms wrapped around her waist. "I thought it would make me feel accomplished, but it just felt empty until now." Olivia leaned back against him. "I'm still scared," she admitted, "but I'm falling in love with you too." "I have been for a while." She felt his smile against her temple. "Then we'll figure it out together." The next few months tested that promise. Theodore's mother, Elena, was initially skeptical when they met for lunch. She was elegant and composed, and Olivia could feel herself being evaluated. "My son tells me you work at a community center," Elena said, sipping her tea. "Yes, Harbor Hope. We provide resources for families in need." "And you're happy there?" Olivia met her gaze steadily. "I am." "I know it might seem small compared to what Theodore does, but it matters to the people we help." Something shifted in Elena's expression. "My husband and I came to this country with nothing. We worked as janitors while Theodore was young. I cleaned office buildings at night so we could afford to keep him in a good school district." She reached across the table, covering Olivia's hand with her own. "Never apologize for honest work that helps others. My son is lucky to have found someone who understands what really matters." Olivia felt tears sting her eyes. "Thank you." Work brought its own challenges. Margaret pulled Olivia aside one day, concern written across her face. "Are you sure about this relationship? Theodore Everett is high profile. What if it affects your work here?" "How would it affect my work?" "People might think you're using your position to connect with wealthy donors, or that you're only here until something better comes along." The accusation stung. "You know that's not true. You know how much this place means to me." Margaret's expression softened. "I do. But I needed to hear you say it. Just be careful, Olivia. Mixing personal and professional lives can get complicated." She was right. When Theodore started making larger donations to Harbor Hope, some staff members whispered that Olivia was manipulating him. When he hired contractors to fix the building's roof and plumbing, a board member questioned whether it was appropriate. Olivia confronted Theodore about it one evening at his place. "Maybe you should stop donating to Harbor Hope." He looked up from his laptop, confused. "Why would I do that?" "People are talking. They think I'm using you for money." Theodore closed the laptop, giving her his full attention. "Are you?" "Of course not." "Then I don't care what people think. Harbor Hope does good work. It deserves support. The fact that the woman I love works there is irrelevant to that." "But it doesn't look good, Olivia." He stood, crossing to where she sat on the couch. "I've donated to dozens of charities over the years. Most of them waste money on administrative costs and fancy galas. Harbor Hope actually helps people. If someone has a problem with me supporting that, they can take it up with me directly." His fierce protectiveness made her heart swell. "When did I get so lucky?" "I'm the lucky one." He kissed her softly. "And I'm going to keep proving that to you until you believe it." Spring arrived, bringing warmer weather and new challenges. Theodore's company was expanding internationally, which meant longer hours and frequent travel. Olivia threw herself into work, organizing a new mentorship program for teenagers aging out of foster care. They made it work through video calls and stolen moments when Theodore was in town, but the distance wore on them both. Olivia found herself lying awake at night, missing him, wondering if this was sustainable. Then came the evening Theodore showed up at her apartment unannounced, looking exhausted. He had flown back early from a business trip in London. "What are you doing here?" Olivia asked, pulling him inside. "I missed you." He wrapped his arms around her, burying his face in her neck. "I was sitting in a meeting about profit margins, and all I could think about was how much I wanted to come home to you." "Home?" He pulled back, and there was something vulnerable in his expression. "Wherever you are feels like home." These past few months being away from you, it made me realize something. He took a deep breath. Move in with me. Olivia's heart leaped and plummeted simultaneously. Theodore, I can't afford. I'm not asking you to pay rent. I'm asking you to share my space. To wake up next to me every morning. To make that empty penthouse feel like a home. He cupped her face. I know you're independent. I know you're used to taking care of yourself, but letting someone take care of you sometimes doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. She thought about her cramped apartment with its leaky faucet and temperamental heating. About coming home to an empty space every night. About how much easier life could be if she just said yes. But she also thought about what it would mean, about losing her independence, about becoming even more entangled in Theodore's world. What if it doesn't work out? She whispered. What if it does? He pressed his forehead to hers. I love you, Olivia. I want to build a life with you. Let me. She moved in 2 weeks later, bringing her modest belongings to his sprawling penthouse. Theodore cleared out closets and drawers, making space for her things with an eagerness that was endearing. He insisted she choose new furniture for the guest room to turn it into a home office, and together they painted one wall a soft blue she loved. Living together was an adjustment. Theodore was meticulously organized while Olivia tended toward creative chaos. He woke at 5 in the morning for workouts while she treasured every extra minute of sleep. But they learned each other's rhythms, found compromise, and built something that felt real and solid. Olivia continued working at Harbor Hope, now taking Theodore's car service that he insisted on because her commute was long. She felt guilty about it until Theodore pointed out that he worried about her taking the bus late at night, and this gave him peace of mind. She could give him that. Summer brought Theodore's company's 10-year anniversary celebration, a massive event that would include major investors, business partners, and press. Theodore asked Olivia to attend as his official date, and despite her nerves, she agreed. This time, when she walked into the elegant hotel ballroom, she held her head high. She wore a dress Theodore had surprised her with, a beautiful emerald green that made her feel confident rather than like she was playing dress-up. His hand was steady in hers as they navigated the crowd. People still looked at her with curiosity, but Olivia found she cared less. When someone asked what she did, she talked about her work with pride. When Theodore introduced her as his partner, the word filled her with warmth. You're amazing, Theodore murmured during a rare quiet moment, his hand at her waist as they swayed to the music. Watching you tonight, seeing you hold your own with everyone, I'm in awe of you. I learned from the best, she said, smiling up at him. His expression turned serious. I meant what I said about building a life with you. I want everything with you, Olivia. Marriage, family, the whole future, her breath caught. Theodore, not right now, he said quickly. I know we need more time, but I wanted you to know where my head is, where my heart is. She kissed him there on the dance floor, not caring who saw. I want that too, all of it, with you. Fall arrived with a crisis at Harbor Hope. The building's foundation had serious issues and repairs would cost more than they could afford. The board was discussing closing down permanently, relocating families to other centers that were already overcrowded. Olivia was devastated. She came home in tears, and Theodore held her while she cried about the families who would lose their support system, the kids who came to their after-school program, the elderly residents who relied on their meal service. Let me help, Theodore said. This isn't your problem. Your problems are my problems. That's what partnership means. He tilted her chin up. What if Everett Industries sponsored a full renovation? We could update everything, make it better than before. That would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm aware, and I can afford it. Olivia pulled back. I can't let you do that. Why not? Because people will definitely think I'm with you for your money, because it's too much. Because you still don't believe you deserve it. Theodore's voice was gentle but firm. Olivia, you've spent years giving everything to others. Let someone give something back to you. Let me do this, not because you asked, but because I want to, because those families matter, because your dream matters. She searched his face, seeing only sincerity. "You really mean it. Every word. Let me prove you wrong about us being from different worlds. Let me show you we're building a new world together, one where we both get to do work that matters." The renovation took 3 months. Theodore worked with architects and contractors to not only fix the foundation, but to modernize the entire building. They added a new computer lab, expanded the kitchen, created a dedicated space for the teen mentorship program. He showed up in jeans and work boots on weekends to help paint, joking with volunteers and charming everyone he met. Olivia fell more in love with him watching him interact with the community. He treated everyone with respect, remembered names and stories, and genuinely cared. This was the man she had glimpsed that first day, stripped of corporate polish and just being human. The reopening celebration happened on a crisp December evening. The building was transformed, warm and welcoming and full of possibilities. Families toured the new spaces with awe, kids ran excitedly through the computer lab, and Margaret cried happy tears. Theodore found Olivia in the new teen center, standing alone for a moment amid the celebration. "You did this," she said softly as he approached. "We did this. Your vision, your heart, made all of this possible. I just provided resources." She turned to him and her eyes were bright. "I love you. I am so completely, totally in love with you that it terrifies me," he smiled, pulling a small box from his pocket. "Good. Because I plan on terrifying you for the rest of our lives." Olivia's hands flew to her mouth as he opened the box, revealing a simple, elegant ring with a single perfect diamond. "I know we said we needed time, but I've spent every day of the past year falling more in love with you," Theodore said, his voice thick with emotion. "You make me better. You challenge me. You show me what really matters. I don't want to wait any longer to start our forever." He dropped to one knee right there in the teen center, surrounded by the proof of what they could build together. "Olivia Lane, will you marry me?" "Yes," she breathed, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, absolutely yes." He slipped the ring on her finger and stood, pulling her into a kiss that felt like a promise. Around them, they could hear the celebration continuing, but in that moment, it was just the two of them and the future spreading out bright and full of possibility. They were married the following spring in a small ceremony at Harbor Hope, surrounded by the families they had helped and the community they had built together. Elena cried throughout the entire ceremony, and Theodore's father told Olivia she was the best thing that ever happened to his son. Margaret officiated, her voice warm as she spoke about love that transforms and partnerships that make both people stronger. When Theodore and Olivia exchanged vows they had written themselves, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. "You told me once that I was too good for you," Theodore said, holding both her hands. "But the truth is, you made me good. You showed me how to use what I have to make a real difference. You taught me that success isn't measured in profit margins but in lives touched and communities strengthened. I promise to spend every day proving that we're exactly right for each other." Olivia's voice shook as she spoke her vows. "I was so afraid of not being enough for you, but you taught me that love isn't about being perfect or coming from the same place. It's about choosing each other every day, about building something together that's stronger than what either of us could create alone. You proved me wrong about so many things, and I can't wait to spend our lives discovering what else we can prove together." Their first year of marriage was an adventure. Olivia continued working at Harbor Hope, which had become a model program that other community centers studied. Theodore launched a foundation dedicated to supporting grassroots organizations, with Olivia helping guide their giving strategy. They traveled together when Theodore had business trips, and Olivia discovered a love of new places and cultures. They also created rituals at home, Sunday morning breakfast in bed and Friday night movie marathons and late-night conversations on their balcony under the stars. When Olivia discovered she was pregnant 18 months after their wedding, Theodore's joy was almost comical. He immediately bought every parenting book he could find and started planning a nursery with the same intensity he brought to business deals. "We're going to be terrible at this," Olivia said one evening, watching him assemble a crib with an expression of fierce concentration. Undoubtedly. He looked up with a grin. But we'll figure it out together, just like everything else. Their daughter was born on a snowy January morning, tiny and perfect with Theodore's dark hair and Olivia's eyes. They named her Grace Elena, and watching Theodore hold her for the first time, tears streaming down his face, Olivia felt her heart expand in ways she hadn't known possible. Parenthood was exhausting and wonderful and challenging. Theodore insisted on taking paternity leave, and they spent those first weeks in a sleep-deprived haze of diaper changes and feeding schedules, and marveling at every little sound Grace made. Margaret visited often, declaring herself an honorary grandmother. Elena and Thomas were devoted grandparents who babysat eagerly. The Harbor Hope community rallied around them with meals and advice, and the kind of support that made Olivia grateful for the life they had built. Grace's first birthday party was held at Harbor Hope, naturally. The center had continued to thrive, now offering even more programs including job training and financial literacy classes. Families who had been helped years ago came back to volunteer, creating a cycle of support that filled Olivia with pride. Theodore gave a speech at the party, ostensibly about Grace, but really about everything they had created together. A year ago, this little person came into our lives and turned everything upside down in the best way, he said, holding Grace on his hip while she grabbed at his tie. She's taught me that love just keeps expanding, that there's always room for more joy. Just like Olivia taught me years ago when she thought she wasn't good enough for me. He looked at his wife across the crowded room, his eyes full of love. She was wrong, by the way, completely, totally wrong. She's not just good enough, she's everything. And I'm grateful every single day that she let me prove that to her. Olivia crossed to him, wrapping her arms around both him and Grace, feeling overwhelmed with gratitude for this beautiful, complicated, perfect life they had built. That evening, after Grace was asleep and they were curled together on the couch, Theodore pulled out his phone. "I want to show you something." It was a video compilation of the past few years. Their first date, captured by a restaurant security camera he had somehow obtained. Photos from their engagement, their wedding, the renovation of Harbor Hope. Videos of Grace's first smile, first laugh, first steps. Moments of their life together woven into a story of love and growth and partnership. "Where did you get all this?" Olivia asked, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I've been collecting moments, proof," he kissed her temple, "proof that you were wrong about us, proof that we were always meant for this." She turned to kiss him properly, pouring years of love and gratitude into it. "You definitely proved me wrong, good, and I'm going to keep proving it. Every single day for the rest of our lives." 3 years later, they welcomed twin boys, Connor and Lucas, who were as different as could be but equally loved. Their home was chaotic and loud and full of the kind of happiness Olivia had never imagined for herself growing up in foster care. Harbor Hope expanded to 3 locations across the city, each one bearing the mark of Theodore and Olivia's partnership. Theodore's foundation had helped dozens of similar organizations, creating a network of support that reached thousands of families. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Theodore surprised Olivia with a renewal of their vows, held in the same spot at Harbor Hope where they had originally married. Grace was the flower girl, and the twins toddled down the aisle, creating delightful chaos. "5 years ago, I promised to prove you wrong," Theodore said, holding both her hands just like before. "I hope I've done that. I hope you know now that you were always more than enough, that you were exactly what I needed, that our different worlds created something better together." Olivia smiled through happy tears, looking at their 3 children being entertained by Margaret, at the community that had become their extended family, at the man who had refused to let her push him away. "You proved me wrong," she said, "about everything. I thought I wasn't good enough for your world, but we didn't stay in your world or mine, we built our own, together." "Together," he agreed and kissed her while their family cheered. That night, After the children were finally asleep and they stood on their balcony looking out at the city they both loved, Olivia reflected on how far they had come. From that first day when she was ready to quit, overwhelmed and exhausted, to this moment of absolute contentment. "Do you ever think about how different things might have been if you hadn't walked into Harbor Hope that day?" she asked. Theodore pulled her close. "Every day, and every day I'm grateful that I did, that you gave me a chance despite your doubts, that you let me love you. Best decision I ever made." She turned in his arms, looking up at the man who had proven that love could bridge any gap, that two people from different worlds could create something beautiful together. "Thank you for not giving up on us." "Never," he promised. "Not then, not now, not ever." And as they stood there together, the city lights twinkling below and their family sleeping peacefully inside, Olivia knew that sometimes the best love stories were the ones where someone saw your worth before you saw it yourself and loved you into believing it. Where different worlds collided and created something neither person could have built alone. Where "you're too good for me" became "we're perfect together." Their story wasn't about a CEO and a social worker. It was about two people who chose each other, who built a life based on shared values and mutual respect, who proved that love doesn't care about bank accounts or social status. It cares about connection, about partnership, about two hearts that beat as one. And they lived that truth every single day, in the big moments and the small ones, in the challenges they faced and the triumphs they celebrated. Together, exactly as they were always meant to be.